If you are watching this right now, I want you to do just one thing. Do not leave. Do not skip. Do not rush away. Stay with me. Because what you are about to hear is not just another voice online, and not just another emotional speech. This might become one of the most important moments of your life. Not because of me, but because something much bigger than both of us has brought you here right now. You may think you clicked on this video randomly, but deep inside you might already feel that this moment is not ordinary. Something inside you feels seen. Something inside you feels understood. Something inside you feels like this message is chasing you for a reason. You didn't come here searching for this, but this came searching for you. And if you leave, you may never know what you were supposed to hear today. So stay, just stay. Give your heart these few minutes, not for entertainment, not for curiosity, but because maybe this is the conversation your soul has been waiting for longer than you realized. You see, life has a way of moving fast. We scroll fast, we think fast, we react fast, we even feel pain fast. But when something truly important comes our way, timing slows down. There is a strange pause inside, a quiet awareness that whispers, "Pay attention. This matters." And that whisper is happening right now. You can feel it because your heart knows when something is meant for you. Maybe you've been feeling tired in ways sleep cannot fix. Maybe you've been feeling empty even when nothing in your life looks wrong from the outside. Maybe you've been carrying questions no one knows you are asking. Maybe you've been pretending you're okay because being honest feels exhausting. Or maybe you've been fine on the surface while something deeper keeps pulling you towards something greater, something truer, something beyond just surviving every day. Whatever brought you here, I want you to know this message isn't here to scare you, pressure you, or manipulate you. This message is here because you matter, because your life is not accidental, because your pain, your confusion, your searching, your hesitation, your strength, your weakness, everything about you has value. And there is a voice calling you closer to truth, closer to healing, closer to meaning, closer to God in a way that you may have avoided, but could never outrun. Maybe you have felt nudges before, quiet thoughts that said, "Slow down. Think deeper. Don't ignore this." Maybe there were moments when you suddenly felt emotional without knowing why. Maybe you've had nights where your mind wouldn't stop, where your heart felt heavier than usual, where a sense of emptiness wrapped around you. Maybe you've had days where you smiled, but something was missing, where you achieved things yet still felt unfulfilled, where you laughed, but knew deep down that laughter wasn't the whole story. That wasn't coincidence. That wasn't weakness. That wasn't just stress. That was your heart trying to speak. That was God trying to reach you through the noise of your life. And now here you are, not by chance, but because timing aligned. because something wanted you to stop scrolling long enough to finally listen. You may not have had someone who stayed. You may not have had someone who truly understood. You may have been strong for too long, independent for too long, pretending for too long. You may have learned to hide your loneliness because people only see your strength. You may have survived seasons that no one even knows nearly broke you. And maybe that's why you keep yourself guarded, because trusting hurts when trust has failed before. Opening up hurts when vulnerability once backfired. Hope hurts when hope has disappointed you in the past, so you protect yourself. You keep distance. You tell yourself you'll deal with it later. You distract yourself with busyness, entertainment, work, routine, anything that stops you from sitting alone with your thoughts. But here's the truth. Your soul does not forget what it needs. Your heart does not forget what it's missing. And God does not forget you, even when you try to forget Him. Right now, this moment is like someone gently stopping you mid-path, touching your shoulder and saying, "Listen, don't rush away this time. Something important is being spoken to you." And I know you have every reason to say, "Not now, maybe later, maybe another day." Life feels complicated. Faith feels complicated. Emotions feel complicated. You don't want to feel pressured. You don't want to feel judged. You don't want to feel controlled. And that's okay. Because this is not about control. This is not about religion as a system. This is not about forcing belief. This is about a God who has been closer to you than your thoughts, who has watched every silent tear, who has seen every unseen battle, who knows the parts of you even you don't talk about. And instead of condemning you, He calls you gently, not with anger, not with threats, but with love that refuses to let you disappear into numbness. Think back on your life for a moment. Think about how many things could have crushed you but didn't. Think about the situations that should have broken you permanently, but somehow you're still here. Think about the nights you didn't know how you'd make it to the next day, but you did. Think about the pain that felt unbearable, but you carried it anyway. Think about the storms that came without warning, the heartbreak that changed you, the disappointments that bruised your spirit. You didn't survive those by luck. Something was holding you even when you felt like you were falling. Something was protecting you even when everything seemed unstable. Something was guiding you through chaos you didn't understand. And maybe you didn't see it then. Maybe you didn't recognize it. Maybe you brushed it aside as coincidence, strength, or chance. But deep down, you know there was more to it than that. Because no one goes through what you've gone through and still has the capacity to feel, to care, to seek meaning, unless God has been quietly carrying them. But here is the important part. Sometimes life doesn't just ask us to survive. Sometimes life asks us to respond. Sometimes God doesn't just rescue us silently. Sometimes He stops us intentionally. Right now is one of those moments. This isn't a random video. This isn't background noise. This is a turning point, disguised as a normal moment. And what you choose to do with it matters, not because God needs your response to exist, but because your future needs your response to change. You can keep pretending you are fine. You can keep burying thoughts you don't want to face. You can keep living numb. You can keep distracting yourself and calling it strength. Or you can pause, breathe, and admit something real. That maybe your soul is tired. That maybe you crave peace that actually lasts. That maybe you want to stop running. That maybe you want to heal. That maybe you want God closer, not as a theory, not as a concept, but as a real presence in your life. There is nothing weak about needing God. There is nothing childish about faith. There is nothing embarrassing about admitting you need something deeper than temporary comfort. The strongest people in the world are not the ones who pretend they need no one. The strongest are those brave enough to face their truth. And your truth right now is this. You were meant to hear this. You were meant to feel this tug in your heart. You were meant to be reminded that you are seen, valued, and pursued by a God who genuinely cares for you. Not because you've been perfect. Not because you've always listened. Not because you've never failed. But because love doesn't leave. Love doesn't quit. Love doesn't give up halfway. And God's love is the most persistent love there is. So stay. Don't leave. Let this moment breathe. Let your guard down a little. Let your heart soften. Because this is just the beginning. There is more you need to hear. There is more waiting for you. This is not the end of your story. This is the beginning of something new, something healing, something safer than the walls you've built. And in the next part, we are going deeper, not into fear, not into pressure, but into clarity, truth, comfort, and a calling that is meant specifically for you, for your life, for your future. Stay, because what's coming next might be the answer you didn't know you were looking for. You stayed, and that already says something powerful about you. Most people run away when something begins to touch the deeper parts of their heart. But you didn't. You allowed yourself to stay even when it feels personal, emotional, honest, and real. That means something inside you is tired of pretending. Something inside you is ready to hear truth, ready to face what you've been avoiding, ready to step into something more meaningful than just existing day after day. Staying here wasn't an accident. It was courage. And courage always opens the door to transformation. Now I want you to slow down for a moment. Not your body, your mind. The world trains us to react fast, scroll fast, decide fast, move fast. But the soul doesn't heal in fast spaces. The soul needs stillness. The soul needs honesty. The soul needs moments like this where nothing else is loud. Nothing else is demanding, and nothing else is distracting you from yourself. This is that space, a rare moment where your heart is finally allowed to breathe. You've been carrying so much, more than people know, more than you even let yourself acknowledge sometimes. Life has required you to be strong. Circumstances forced you to mature before time. Experiences shaped you in ways you didn't ask for. And somewhere along the way, you stopped asking yourself what you really needed. You trained yourself to push forward without pausing, to survive without feeling, to function even when your heart was exhausted. But you are not meant to live your entire life in survival mode. You were created for more than just enduring everything silently. There have been seasons in your life where you felt like you were standing in the middle of a storm with no shelter. Times when everything around you seemed uncertain, unstable, unpredictable. One moment things felt okay, and the next moment everything shifted. You lost things you thought you would always have. You lost people you thought would always stay. You lost confidence you thought would never fade. And while everyone else saw you pushing forward, smiling, working, functioning, they did not see the nights where you stared at the ceiling wondering how much longer you could keep doing this. They didn't see the silent tears. They didn't hear the questions in your mind. They didn't hear the quiet cry of your soul saying, "I just want peace." Real peace, peace that doesn't disappear. Life doesn't always break you loudly. Sometimes it breaks you quietly, slowly, gradually, through disappointments layered on disappointments. Through responsibilities heavier than your shoulders should have carried. Through relationships that hurt instead of healed. Through expectations you tried so hard to meet only to feel like you were never enough. Through silent battles no one applauded you for fighting. And yet, you're still here, not by accident. Not because you're simply tough, but because there is a purpose attached to your existence that is greater than everything that tried to break you. But here is where truth becomes important. You cannot keep living in between. You cannot keep staying half numb and half alive. You cannot keep temporarily patching wounds that need real healing. You cannot keep distracting your heart instead of restoring it. You cannot keep avoiding God while desperately needing what only He can give. You've spent so long trying to stay in control, trying to figure life out on your own, trying to protect yourself from disappointment, trying to be strong even when your strength wasn't strength anymore. And because of that, you've kept God at a distance, not openly rejecting, just quietly avoiding, telling yourself you'll get serious later, when life is calmer, when you're more ready, when you're more spiritual, when you feel worthy. But deep inside, you know later has become years, and years have become emptiness. Right now is not about religion. It's not about rules. It's not about pressure. This is about relationship. About the God who knows the version of you you hide from everyone else. The version of you that feels small sometimes. The version of you that doubts. The version of you that fears failing. The version of you that feels overwhelmed. And He doesn't push you away for it. He doesn't punish you for it. He doesn't shame you for feeling human. Instead, He meets you there in the middle of fear, in the middle of uncertainty, in the middle of confusion, and says, "Let me carry what you don't have to carry alone anymore." Think honestly. How long have you been doing life alone internally? Even with people around you, how long have you felt alone on the inside? How long have you avoided quiet moments because quiet makes you confront emotions? How long have you convinced yourself you're fine because being fine feels safer than admitting you're not? You have learned to survive, but now it's time to learn how to live. To breathe without anxiety constantly chasing you. To wake up without feeling spiritually empty. To feel hope again without fear immediately shutting it down. To trust again. To believe again. To experience peace that doesn't need pretending. And the only one who can truly lead you there is God. But let's be honest. Trusting God feels risky when life has taught you that nothing feels guaranteed. Distance felt easier. Remaining guarded felt safer. But even while you kept distance, God didn't distance Himself from you. He still protected you. He still covered situations that could have destroyed you. He still let grace reach you when you didn't even realize it. He still kept your hearts sensitive instead of hard. He still let you feel moments like this, where you can still be moved, still be touched, still be reached. That means your heart is not gone. It's not too late. You're not too far. You haven't ruined everything. You're not beyond calling. You're not beyond love. You are still reachable. And now you are at a turning moment. Not dramatic, not cinematic, just quietly powerful. A moment where God is gently saying, "Let me closer." Not because He wants control, but because He wants to heal what you stopped believing could heal. He wants to give purpose where you only felt confusion. He wants to give peace where you only felt survival. He wants to remind you that your story isn't defined by what hurt you. It's defined by what He can do with what hurt you. There are future moments in your life you haven't seen yet. Moments of laughter that won't feel forced. Moments of strength that won't come from pretending. Moments of peace that won't feel borrowed. Moments of clarity where confusion once lived. There are relationships ahead that won't break you. Blessings ahead you can't imagine. Healing ahead that feels impossible right now. And whether you realize it or not, this moment is part of that journey forward. This is not the end. This is preparation. This is alignment. This is God setting something in motion in your life quietly, powerfully, personally. So stay with this journey, because in the next part, something shifts deeper, not into fear, not into pressure, but into surrender that doesn't feel like loss, into healing that doesn't require you to be perfect, into truth that doesn't crush you, but frees you. You haven't seen the best of your story yet, and what's coming next may finally help you understand why God never stopped calling you. You are still here, and that matters more than you think, because staying this long means something inside you is no longer willing to ignore what your heart has been needing. It means there is a part of you that is done running, done hiding, done pretending everything is okay when deep down something feels unfinished. Staying doesn't just mean you heard these words. Staying means you felt them. And when the heart feels truth, it doesn't let go easily. So right now, you are not here by chance. You are here because this is the moment everything begins to align in a way it hasn't before. You have walked through pain that other people wouldn't understand unless they lived it. You have faced confusion that didn't have easy answers. You have gone through situations that changed the way you see life. You built strength because you had to, not because life gave you an easy choice. And even when no one was watching, you still kept going. You still showed up. You still tried. You still cared. You still hoped somewhere inside, even when parts of you wanted to give up. That says something about the kind of heart you have. A tired heart, a wounded heart, but still a fighting heart. And that is the kind of heart God does not ignore. But now, it is time for something different. Not just survival, not just endurance, not just coping. This is the moment where life doesn't just keep pulling you forward forcefully. This is the moment where you choose to step forward with intention, with belief, with openness, with trust. Because healing does not happen automatically with time. Healing happens when we finally decide to stop running from what hurts and allow something greater than us to step in. You have avoided surrender because surrender sounded like losing control. It sounded like weakness. It sounded like letting go of the few things you felt you could still control. But what if surrender is not losing? What if surrender is relief? What if surrender is finally putting down what has been exhausting you for years? What if surrender is the moment your spirit breathes freely for the first time in a long time and realizes it doesn't have to do life alone anymore? There is something sacred about this moment right now. It's quiet. It's real. It's honest. There is no audience clapping, no crowd watching, no noise, just you, your heart, and a God who has never stopped being near, even when you didn't notice. This moment is not loud, but it is powerful. Because shifts don't always happen during chaos. Sometimes they happen in stillness, when your heart finally whispers, "I'm ready. I don't want to carry this alone anymore." Look at your journey. Really think about it. There were nights you didn't know how you would survive, and yet you're here. There were moments you felt completely unseen, but something still held you together. There were times life felt unbearable, but somehow your heart kept beating with purpose inside it. That wasn't an accident. That wasn't random chance. That was grace. That was protection. That was love following you through the dark, even when you didn't realize it. And maybe now you finally see it. Maybe now things don't just hurt. They make sense. Maybe now the unanswered questions feel less like abandonment and more like guidance. Maybe now the delays don't feel like punishment. They feel like preparation. You weren't forgotten. You weren't ignored. You were being prepared for a moment where your heart would finally be ready to respond instead of resist. There are people in this world who feel alone in rooms full of people, who smile publicly and break privately, who seem strong but feel fragile on the inside. And maybe that has been you. Maybe you've been the one everyone leans on, but you haven't had anyone to lean on yourself. Maybe you've been the listener, the supporter, the responsible one, the one who holds everyone together. But no one realizes you sometimes fall apart quietly when no one is around. You have carried weight that wasn't always yours to carry. You have been brave in moments where you wanted to collapse. You have held so much inside because you didn't want to burden anyone else. And yet, even in all that, you're still gentle, still caring, still capable of love. That is not weakness. That is incredible strength. But even the strongest hearts deserve rest. Even the strongest souls deserve comfort. Even the strongest people deserve to finally say, I need help. I need peace. I need God closer than ever before. And right now, that invitation is open. Not with fear, not with force, not with pressure, but with love that has been calling you softly for so long. Love that has waited patiently. Love that has understood your hesitation. Love that has seen your tears even when no one else did. Love that has stayed when everything else left. Love that says, you're not hard to love. You're not too late. You're not too broken. You are still worth reaching for. Maybe you've felt unworthy sometimes. Maybe you've convinced yourself that God could love others more easily than He could love you. Maybe your mistakes have made you feel disqualified. Maybe your past has made you feel stained. Maybe your doubts have made you feel distant. But here is truth. God never loved you because you were perfect. He loved you because you are His. With your flaws, with your fears, with your imperfections, with your complicated story. Love remains. Grace remains. The invitation remains. And if you are feeling something right now, if your heart feels heavy yet lighter at the same time, if you feel warmth, if you feel tears, if you feel a strange peace, that isn't coincidence. That is God touching something inside you that has waited to be acknowledged. That is God whispering to a part of you that hasn't been spoken to in a while. And you don't have to understand everything right now. You don't need every answer right now. You don't have to be spiritually perfect. All you need in this moment is honesty. Honesty with yourself. Honesty with God. Honesty that simply says, I need you. I don't want to do life alone anymore. Imagine waking up and feeling peace again. Imagine breathing without the constant weight pressing your chest. Imagine smiling because your heart actually feels lighter, not because you're forcing it. Imagine being able to look at your future with hope instead of fear. That isn't unrealistic. That isn't impossible. That is what happens when you stop running and start trusting. That is what happens when you stop fighting everything alone and finally allow God to stand with you. And right now, this is your moment to respond. Not for show, not because someone is watching, but because your soul needs it. Because this isn't just a video. This is a moment between you and God. A moment that might shape the rest of your life quietly, yet powerfully. So breathe. Slow, deep. Let your heart soften. Let your guard down for just a moment. And if your heart agrees, even if your mind still has questions, whisper inside yourself or say it out loud. God, I need you. I don't want to run anymore. I don't want to pretend anymore. I want peace. I want healing. I want to know you for real. I give you my tiredness. I give you my fear. I give you my confusion. Stay close. Don't let me drift again. You didn't reach this point for nothing. There is purpose in this moment. There is meaning in this timing. Something beautiful begins when a heart finally stops hiding. Something powerful begins when a soul finally stops pretending and starts trusting. This is your beginning. A quiet, sacred, powerful beginning. Not the end of your story. Just the moment your story starts moving toward healing, clarity, peace, and purpose like never before. And if this touched you, if this spoke to you, don't disappear silently. Stay connected. Stay growing. Stay close. Because you are not meant to walk this journey alone anymore. Your story is far from over. In fact, something beautiful is just beginning.